Well, the last time we hit record, Riley was expecting a job offer any day now.
Any day. And guess what?
That was 5 months ago.
And here I am, still jobless.
Here we are. You were checking the email every few minutes. You kept hitting refresh, and then nothing.
Absolutely nothing. Literally every 15 minutes or so, I'm re-scrolling. You know, my thumb was getting tired, getting arthritis just from scrolling, refreshing that email, and no email showed up.
The church said they were going to hit pause on the process, and that kind of sent you back to square one.
You are listening to Get a Job, presented by Practically Pastoring, a podcast about calling, clarity, and the awkward in-between.
So 5 months later, here we are. Same podcast, same calling, just a little bit more bruised this time around. And that's okay. This is Get a Job with Andrew and Riley. Theme music.
Boom.
Welcome back to Get a Job, a podcast about calling and clarity and the awkward in between. So, Riley, what's it feel like to hit record after 5 months? It was August the last time we did this. It's now the middle of January.
Yeah, it's been quite a long time, and there's been quite a bit going on, and not necessarily in my favor.
So, but some things very much in your favor. So catch us up. What happened after we stopped recording? When we talked last here, you were waiting for an offer. It felt close, and then it didn't happen. So what were you thinking then? And fill us in with what's happened since.
Yeah, so I had a few promising things going on, and I thought, those offers were going to come, and potentially multiple offers, and then all of a sudden it was we have a pause in our spirit, and so we're going to press pause with this process.
Which is a whole lot better than 6 months from now. It's like, hey, we made a mistake.
Correct, yeah, looking back, and I told my wife, I said I would rather had that happen than take a job and then 6 months later be back where we are right now.
And be like, ooh, that was not a good fit.
Realizing once again it wasn't a good fit and having to do this process over again, move my family again, and do all these things. So speaking of family, Andrew.
Yeah.
Since August, my family grew by one child.
Sure did.
And so my wife and I had our daughter, Sailor, October.
I think Savannah did the vast majority of the work.
She did. I did nothing other than moral support. And actually, the funny story, just an aside, so Andrew, I told him we're in the hospital and things are going on. So he's the great friend he is, decides to Uber Eats me some Chipotle.
The kind of friend I am.
Well, once the wife goes into labor, active labor, all these things, they can't eat.
They sure can't.
And so Andrew orders me Chipotle, and on top of that, I don't ever told you this. When you ordered it, about 10 minutes later, the team for the epidural comes in, and so I'm checking the location of my Uber Eats driver. While my wife is going to get stabbed with a long needle, and she is just like, give me the dirtiest looks. And I'm like, my driver is here. I'm like, I've got to go and meet them. She's like, you're not going anywhere. So, yeah.
Is this why Savannah's been mad at me for the past 4 months?
Andrew, she can never be mad at you.
I know.
She loves you.
I get that.
But yeah, so I have a third kid now.
You have 3 babies at your house?
I do.
And sounds to me like you really need a job.
Yeah. 3 babies. The newest one does have some health issues going on since birth. And so, a full-time job and, benefits, all those things are nice things.
Listen, to any church listening to this, you don't want to give Riley benefits. His family...
We will use them. You hire me, I will hit my deductible.
They will hit their deductible by about February every single year.
This is the truth.
So going back to August... we're not saying names, but the role was a campus pastor role at a similar setting to where you had just come from. And so they said they were hitting pause in the process. Did they not launch that campus? Do you even know? Are you like the crazy ex that is stalking them on Instagram to see what they're doing?
No, I've not stalked them on Instagram to see what they're doing. I do know that the job was still posted after they pressed pause on me. Again, I think.
But this was how many rounds? Like,
I
know
was.
there were multiple.
Oh, I had
multiple dinners. Like your wife went out to dinner with people.
Yeah, so I had a conversation with them who had been my direct report multiple times on the phone, in person. Then had a meeting with the executive pastor. Got a tour of the main campus's facilities. Met staff on the tour. Then had dinner with 2 staff members who had worked with the senior pastor in previous places. Really good friends with him. So our spouses and us went out to dinner. Very nice dinner, and I got my money's worth, that's for sure. But after
Do you
that,
think that was it?
No.
Did you order too much food, Riley?
No, because they all ordered first.
Okay.
So I made sure I was below them. And then after that dinner, it was a few days later, I got a phone call just saying, hey, we should have a check in our spirit. And, I think part of it was I was very upfront of who I am and kind of just some of my frustrations in the previous role that I was in. Because knowing now what I didn't know when I took this job that I no longer have, like I want to be as upfront and forward as possible.
Yeah.
And because I want to make sure it's a fit. I want people to know, hey, this is why what happened. This is who I am. Here's some of my frustrations in the role. And I think just with that, they realized that culturally it wasn't going to be a good fit. And like I said, at the end of the day, that's okay.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's better.
That is the better case scenario than lots of other things could have been. But let's go back to August. How did you feel back then when you got that call?
I mean, I was bummed. Told my wife, she was she was at the house with me when I got the call, and it was that moment of just. And we've learned now through this process, we kind of joke, and we'll get to this further down. We've learned not to get excited anymore. So that sounds kind of morbid and depressing, but it's a reality.
But it's such a weird
stay off of Zillow,
thing.
because as soon as someone calls us, we're like pulling up Zillow, looking at houses and affordability, different things, and we've learned, until that final call comes, not to get excited. And so we were both bummed, but we had another one also still in the works that also didn't happen. So it's kind of okay, God's closing this door, maybe this one's open, and that one wasn't either. And so it was a moment of hey, disappointed, but also, God, you're doing something, and we don't know what it is, and we're kind of just sit here and wait.
Was it a confidence hit? Was it it's not you, it's me?
Yeah, I think it was that one, not as much, because it was more of hey, it's more of us than you. I think as I had a few more conversations and a few more go on, and that became more of hey, we just don't think you're good for it. The more the no's came, because I had a handful come in a period of time, that became more of a demoralizing hit. Okay, Lord, I know you've called me to this, and I don't know how to do anything else really. Andrew knows me. This is I don't know how to do anything
But also,
else.
Since we've recorded last, you've finished a master's degree.
Correct.
You've set yourself up for this career.
Correct.
So it's not like you're this is a whim. This is all you've done in your adult life.
Yeah, I'm showing you my hand. This is all I have. There's no hidden card anywhere, no hidden tricks. And so that began to become a little bit demoralizing as I looked at my family and looked at finances. And, as a man, we're called to be the provider. Yeah. And in that moment when you're looking at your kids and, let's fast forward some even, Christmas. We're recording this post-Christmas. And, that reality of what does that look like for our family?
Yeah.
What can I get my kids for Christmas? And luckily they're young enough and naive enough that I go to Five Below. They have no idea. But it is that just reality.
Listen, rewind a decade or so, and we didn't have Five Below as an option.
This is true.
So I remember the first Christmas that Five Below existed in our area. It was the greatest thing.
I also remember one
ever.
Christmas, Andrew, when you bought your kids a play kitchen.
First of all, my parents bought that play kitchen from Aldi or something like that. It was hey, this is great.
It was,
and
I remember it's Christmas
and
Eve.
Bachelor Riley.
Yes.
Was up till 2 a.m.
It's Christmas Eve, 2 a.m. building a toy kitchen for Andrew's
Also,
kids.
So my kids, Santa has delivered snow to my front door every Christmas since my kids were little, at least since 2013 when our first Christmas in our current house. And now I only have one of my kids who is a true believer left, which means I had my 2 middle schoolers and my 1 high schooler go with me to the ice skating rink with shovels and coolers. So getting snow is so much easier than it used to be. The church I served at previously, we had an 11 p.m. service with communion on Christmas Eve, and I'm like, what?
No, thank you.
Who in the world thought that was a good idea? Hey, we want to value your family by keeping you from them.
Yeah.
And so I would go to the ice skating rink after that service, like in my wingtip shoes, because that was the dress up nice service. And now it's like, oh, I can like sit in the car and my boys can do all of this. This is great.
That is nice.
So the whole parenting thing gets
Yeah.
a little bit easier. So when you get this call and then several other no's, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you had slowed your resume sending out at that time, correct? You did
Correct.
not have
Yeah,
quite as many irons in the fire?
Yeah, that was hey, I'm going to leave it to these few handful that were moving forward and stuff because I felt good about it and didn't. And then, yeah.
So when you say the process was starting over, it was literally starting over. You were not on
Correct.
second base or, even in the batter's box with anybody.
Yeah, I had nothing out there really. I kind of was banking on these and they didn't happen.
Well, did you feel, I mean, I know the story because you and I talk regularly. Did you feel like you kind of had to explain yourself to the new churches that you were applying to, or to to your family at Thanksgiving, to your wife's family?
Yeah.
Like, hey, here's what the process is like. Also, when you're talking to people that aren't in ministry, they don't quite get the process. Most other industries, it's not a year-long process to go from one mid-level job to another.
Yeah, and so it's interesting, the family dynamic. So like my parents were at the church I was at, and so for them, they understood some of my dad's been a deacon and lead deacon, all the things, and so he's been behind the curtain, and so he's seen things and how it happens, and he understands the process, I think. But my wife's parents, neither one of them are churchgoers really, and so to them, like, this whole thing is foreign. They're like, dude, Riley's awesome. He's got these gifts, abilities. He's got this resume. Like, anybody want to hire him? They look at my resume and they're like, man, this guy. In their mind, they're like, anybody should want him tomorrow. And so they don't quite understand, but they also, are huge supporters and have been helpful. And, they bought some presents even at Christmas from Santa for our kids.
That's cool.
To help us out and different things. So they know, it's one of those that they're not big time churchgoers, but they also have this same mindset of, hey, like, something's going to happen. Like, this is not a permanent thing, which is really cool to see. And really for my wife and I to be able to show them, like, hey, even though we're going through a hard season, like,
here's what faith looks like in
exactly.
the middle of that season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it still isn't a whole lot of fun, though.
It's not fun at all.
And what's it like now that, you've been off staff since, September?
Yeah. I was in September. I was given, hey, we're going to pay you through October, but you don't need to be here. So,
but your kids are still involved in the children's ministry at that previous church. You guys
Correct.
are still worshiping there.
Yep.
So what's it like to kind of now be in the observer chair when you're showing up and attending, and you're kind of watching life go on? The campus that you are at has a new campus pastor, and lots of the changes that you tried to make in the leadership was like, no, we're not going to do that. They're like, oh, yeah, for this guy, we should go ahead and...
Yeah, it's that awkward, like, I want the church to do well, and I really do genuinely love the church and love the people, and so I want them to do well. And I'm friends with the new person who took over my role, and I'm trying to be as helpful with him. But it is that moment of like, hey, you got that put into the building that I wanted to for years. You get that staff change happen that I wanted to happen for years. You've got, you have multiple staff members that I wanted to have for years. So all of a sudden you have all this movement to momentum, which I understand. My wife was getting frustrated. I said, look, this is how it works.
Yeah.
Like, they want to set up the next person for success and give him some easy wins on the front end to make it look good. And he's a great guy. Like, I talked to him just the other day, and I've had people text me and reach out to me, and I'm like, hey, I'm not the pastor anymore. And so I'm like, I'll call him. Hey, so-and-so called me. Can you reach out? You're the pastor. I don't want to handle it. I want to make sure that we even did a funeral together where a member of the church, her husband tragically passed away of a heart issue. He was at the hospital during the day with the family. He went to be with his family during the day. I came at night, ended up being with the family when he passed that evening. We both split the funeral. And so it was kind of a cool moment of unifying, if you will, for the church, which is really good. But being back at the main campus, it's, it has its pros. Our kids are oblivious My kids still think I work at the church because it's not worth going through that rabbit hole with them until we find a new role. They enjoy the kids ministry there. Wednesday nights were fun. They had this campus right now has Awana. Our previous campus didn't, and so our son's in Awana now, playing the games, enjoying that. But for me on the non-staff side now, it's been real interesting to see just kind of, I don't know if it's the other side of church, because I've been on the other side of it, but, just being, it feels at times just another body.
Yeah.
I was just talking to Angie before we recorded about some things going on with my kids and health issues, and, a couple people said, hey, I feel like I haven't seen you in forever. And I wanted to be like, well, because you haven't. And if you realize you haven't seen me, how come you've never reached out? And it made me realize, even as I was thinking driving here this morning, like wherever I go next, I never want anybody in my church to have that feeling, regardless of the size of the church. Like no one should ever have that feeling. And I'm a former staff member. So like everyone on staff knows my family. They know my kids. Many of the prominent volunteers know my family.
Yeah, but how many of them sent Chipotle to the hospital in the middle of an epidural?
0.
Take that.
And here's the hard part. Is in that moment, like when our child was born, like you were my only text. Like I didn't. There was no one at the church that came to mind. Like I should text them and like, hey, my child was born, because I felt like it wasn't a big deal to them. And so it was that kind of that moment of like, man. And I told Andrew, and I told my wife this. It's sad at times, but I understand also this is ministry. That people appreciate you or value you for the position you hold, not the person you are. And that is what hit me.
And a lot of it is, once you are out of sight, you are out of mind. I mean, it's like in general, we like to think, oh, they're not going to carry on without me. No, they will.
Yeah.
It's kind of a big deal. Doug Fields tells a story about when he left Saddleback, how he was like, oh, it's going to be, this disaster. And he was, brought up on stage, and Rick Warren was like, this is my best friend in ministry. And Doug said, and he didn't hear from him from that moment for like 9 months. And it was ooh, hey, can you come and preach this service that we're doing?
Yeah.
And it was it's when everybody else is in the pace of go, go, go. And Sunday is only 6 days away or 7 days away or whatever for everybody else. And now you're suddenly in the slower thing. It's okay, this is unique.
Yeah. And I think too, like, I got a part-time job that I'm able to work and stuff like that. And so I'm a chaplain for an eye surgery center here in the Tampa Bay area. And like, hey, heard you got a new gig at this area, this place, and do you enjoy it and all that kind of stuff? I want to be like,
no,
but they in their mind, like, oh, he found something new and he's doing ministry, which I am.
Yeah.
I'm going to pray for patients and care for patients and stuff. But it's like, no, I went from leading a campus and preaching and pouring in people and investing in a staff team and in people to praying with people before cataract surgery. Let me ask you, would you enjoy that? And I'm not knocking it at all, please. I do enjoy my job. But it's
not your calling.
It's not my calling,
it's like,
not
to
be frank,
what you're supposed to be doing for forever.
it's a $25,000-$30,000 pay cut.
Yeah.
And different things. So it's like, yeah, it's great. It's putting some money in the bank, but at the end of the day, it's like, I've got a mortgage. I've got kids. My kids go to private school, and different things. And so it's like, it's helping, but it's not great.
So how do you, when you're in this season, keep from tying your identity to, hey, I'm Pastor Riley? Like it's a good thing you don't have the Twitter handle Pastor Riley.
It's true.
How do you tie your identity to not your career when for so much of your adult life, your career is a big part of who you are? And also, how do you kind of build and sustain relationships when you also are realizing that there's a good chance that 5 months from now, you won't live in the same house, in the same area, your kids won't go to the same school next year? How do you kind of balance all of those realities at the same time, where you need community and you need all of these things, but you're in limbo?
Yeah, the community side's been the hardest side, because, again, my community was built in the church that I led. And, the deacons that I had and the staff team, that's when we were at the church all the time. That was really our community. And so going back to the different campus, and we tried going to a group for a while, and it just then didn't feel right, kind of felt out of place, and kind because the guys leading the group knew who I was and kind of knew what happened a little bit. Never felt like I could speak up because then it'd be, it'd just be weird. And
everyone's talking about how their job sucks, and you're like, yeah, you think that's bad?
Yeah, exactly. And then obviously having the kid, we were in and out of church with our child, birth and different things, and so the community part has been the hardest part of trying to find community. That's one of the reasons I play in a men's league softball on Tuesday nights with guys from my previous campus, but they were all good dudes, and I told my wife, like, I don't care what happens, I need Tuesday nights. Like, it's my outlet to just be a dude and hang out with some friends. And it's been hard on her. Her closest friends are all at the church, and and unfortunately, it's kind of same thing with me. Is like they don't talk to her as much anymore.
Yeah,
and she doesn't see them. And luckily, she had some more friends. She's a teacher at the school at the main campus house, and so she had some more connections with the main campus either than I did. So that's been hard, and just the balancing the identity part. It's funny is my name tag for my new role I have at this eye center says my name and then pastoral care. And so at one of the facilities I go to, they call me Pastor Riley, which is kind of cool. The staff, they call me Pastor Riley to their clients and patients and stuff. So that's cool. I get to have that kind of, hey, I'm still kind of, pastoral on my name tag. But it is that moment of, that was my identity for so long. And we're at the ball field, my son's baseball team, and people going, hey, Riley, what church did you go to? And it's like, well, I
funny you should ask.
Was here and now I'm here, and trying to explain things to people, and that's the hard part of like, who do you explain what to? I was at the dentist the other day, and the person who owns the practice goes to the campus I was at, and one of the hygienists was talking to me while she was, making my gums bleed by stabbing. So they're like, hey, your gums are bleeding.
Something.
It's like, my gums are bleeding because you stick your floss an inch down to my gum. Of course it's going to bleed. Thank you. But it's like, so you're at Calvary, right? And, what campus are you at again? And I'm like, well, and so it's like, I'm not going into this with my dental hygienist. I see once every 6 months.
Yeah.
And so I was like, yeah, I'm still there. And, she's like, how many days a week are there? I'm most of the week I'm there, and just kind of just playing along because it's not worth going to that conversation. And so it's even navigating that of like, who needs to know what? And when do they need to know it, and how, those kind of things. So it's been a kind of a juggling act of whatever environment I'm in and who I'm talking to and where I'm at, what to do and how to do it.
So now 5 months removed from the last conversations, 4 months removed from actually being on staff. How many resumes are you sending out? How many irons are in the fire?
Yeah, I was looking. I have a because I'm old school. Sometimes I have that piece of paper in my computer. Like I just written down different jobs I've applied for, and I think it was a couple weeks ago I looked, and it was since mid-November to now. I think I'm looking at close to 20 that I've applied for, and some are still outstanding. Some only a couple have said, "Hey, no, thank you." Or moved in a different direction, and so there's a bunch out there, and a lot of them were, hey, I applied in November, hey, we're taking applicants through the beginning of the year, of the new year, and so waiting to hear back, and so on. So it's been kind of back to square one, and but there's things happening in my life, like I don't know if I'm to get into it now, but definitely just even looking back at these past 5 months and being so excited for that one role, and with what's gone on in my family's life with our daughter. Health-wise,
probably a good thing you weren't trying to.
It's a good thing we didn't
starting
leave,
a new role,
and maybe something to get into another episode of just like the looking back now and seeing God's hand in all the no's and God's hand in the pause. Because I told my wife I don't think we would be where we're at health-wise with our daughter if we were somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so it's really cool to see just God's hand in all of that. But yes, I'm sitting probably about 20 or so, 15, 20 resumes out there. And I've got a really cool story, probably another episode of just a conversation I'm having now about a job that I've been talking to. So.
Well, we'll talk about that next episode. So tune in probably next week. I don't know when these are going to drop, but we'll keep talking about it here on Get a Job with Andrew and Riley. See you then. Get a Job is presented by Practically Pastoring. It is recorded and edited by me, Andrew Larson, and it is produced by Andrew Larson and Riley Lester.